So welcome to the center. My name is Shawnee. Everybody knows, I think. I'm the Executive Director of Message Media Ed, School of Black Leadership in the Digital Age.
I actually make it so that if Dr. Shawnee had locations across the world, that those people in Switzerland or in Paris or wherever could all access the data, or in Kenya or Ghana, could all access the data that resides here as if they were sitting here. So I actually, with my company, I work in partnership with sales reps to identify corporations, companies that have a need to connect these global multinational type of organizations so that their enterprise can be able to work efficiently regardless of the distance between the various sites. So I do both wireline, that is regular, what you think of as copper or fiber. I also do a lot of wireless, do a lot of integration of wireless and wireline. So anything from a network perspective of wide area networks is what I specialize in, and I also focus a lot on security as well.
So I am a technical recruiter for Google, and basically what I do is work within the Human Resources Department in the initial strategy around how we find the engineers that work on, well, in my field of focus, the engineers, the software-specific engineers that work on the products that Google produces. So,
I am a social media marketing trainer. What I do is I help a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, and companies use social media. You know, everybody's hearing the buzzword, you gotta be on social media, but the reality is people get on it and they go, okay, so what the heck am I supposed to do now, right? So there is a very strategic approach to social media, just like there is any other form of marketing that you do. There's certain things that you can do to attract the right kind of audience. There's certain things that you can do to build a relationship. So those are the things that I show business owners.
What I do is, in a nutshell, it can vary by day, but it's usually getting together with the client and then figuring out how we're going to do this campaign. And if there's programming involved, it's going to the programmers, going to the creative people, saying this is what we want to do, and then figuring out the budget, timelines, and that kind of thing. So, by and large, that's pretty much what I do.
you know, you just never know in life who you meet and how they can ultimately help your career, and so, you know, it is very true. Many times it's who you know who open up opportunities, and it really was my high school coach back when I was a sophomore, and at the time I was I played football, was running with a couple of guys whose lives weren't really going anywhere, and I was a confused young guy not knowing what the future held for me either, and it was my coach who said, look man, you know, you can do anything that you want to do, and really if you apply yourself, you know, the sky's the limit. It was at that point though that in him just kind of giving that piece of vision that I made a conscious or unconscious decision to really apply myself toward both school and athletics, and subsequently from that ended up attending the University of Southern California, went to USC, and was a political science major while I was there. And after college I got a job selling pagers, if anyone can remember that they had those, and cellular phones when they used to be bricks, and after about 5 years of doing sales and being burnt out, took some time off and just saw an ad in the paper that said, hey, if you have a sales background, you like working for people, come and apply. And little did I know it was a company called Aerotech, which is basically a technical recruiting company, and it was at that point that I found out that staffing was a $6 billion a year business, and this company was big on hiring athletes because of, you know, the competitive nature of sourcing and staffing, and as well as people with a sales background and people who had no experience specific to human resources or recruiting, because they had a whole system that they trained you in. And so in taking that job, was sent off to their headquarters and went through 2 weeks of training, came back, and subsequently, little did I know back then, really started the trajectory of my career.
After I had my daughter, you know, there was something that clicked inside me that said, I don't want to go to work. You know, I want to be home with her. So I kind of went on this rampage of looking for different opportunities to work from home, and how can I make money on the internet, or how can I do, you know, something so that I can have time with her. And, you know, I didn't find anything, had to go back to work. Went back to work, and one day my mother-in-law invited me to her house, and she says, just come over, I have somebody come to do a presentation. And I thought immediately, oh, you trying to get me into a network marketing, right? Right? How many of you guys were like that? So I was like, no, not happening. So she tricked me and says, okay, we'll come over for breakfast. And I said, cool, I'm there, So while I'm eating, this lady comes in with a rollaway bag, and I'm thinking, oh, no, she didn't. She got me, that's right, she got me. But you know what? It was at a point in my life where I was very open to something changing, and I knew that what I was doing wasn't working, and that I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So long story short, I got involved in a network marketing company, did everything the wrong way, was that person that you probably didn't want to talk to, because all I did was talk about my business and try to pitch it and do all that. And I learned what people wanted to hear about, and what got people to buy, and what made people interested in what you were doing, and it wasn't what I was doing. So I took to social media and said, hey, I don't have any other money to market on anything else right now, let me use what I have. So again, I was that person that you wanted to block from your Facebook because I was terrible at marketing, right? I learned how to do it right, and literally in an amount of 2 to 3 months, I tripled my income, and I had people buying things from me all across the world, people who had never met me that wanted to be a part of what I was doing. So I just started, training people in my organization on how to use social media. It was very non-formal, just like, hey, these are some things that I'm doing. And my mentor, who was the lady who rolled in with that bag, that day, she helped me develop myself personally and gave me things that would work in any business. So, regardless of the bad rap that network marketing has, that is what got me the skills to run my own business. Long story short, I was very good. I noticed I was very good at what I was doing, and people were coming to me from other companies, and I started to train them, and I said, you know what, this is what I'm supposed to do. I went to school to be a teacher, so I'm not teaching kids, but I'm teaching people how to still do something that can help our economy, that can help their business. And so I just became extremely passionate about that. But if it hadn't been for that lady that walked in with that rollaway bag, I don't think that it would have clicked for me. It took someone that looked like me and someone that had a similar story for me to pay attention to it, and I thank God for her, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't have met her that day.
First off, my parents, because they constantly pushed me in things that your average kid didn't do. For instance, one summer I actually worked in a research lab at Morehouse School of Medicine. So I did a number of things that the average kid just was not doing, and my parents were constantly on me to write essays and do a lot of things that could get me a lot of exposure. So actually one year I participated in a program that is called the Minority Introduction to Technology and Engineering, and the sole focus of the group is to introduce minority students to technology and engineering to increase the number of minorities that actually work in that capacity. So the Minority Introduction to Technology and Engineering is what really got me thinking about engineering. It was held at Georgia Tech, Georgia Institute of Technology out of Atlanta. I did like a 2-week program where we actually sat in engineering classes, spoke with engineers, did lab work, and that made me decide to actually pursue an engineering degree. So I graduated from Georgia Tech with an electrical engineering degree, and from there was recruited out of college by Sprint Nextel. Got shipped off to a 3-month boot camp for engineering. And some of the other people along the way that have guided me since I've gotten to Sprint is that the program was actually set up to have a mentor. So I actually had a mentor whose sole focus was to make sure that I was achieving and operating at the highest capacity. So that also helped me a lot. So at Sprint, I had a lot of people who kind of championed me along the way to make sure I got a lot of exposure and a lot of opportunities.
Okay.
Oldest brother who, much to the dismay of my parents, would take apart everything in the house and turn it into something else. I was the youngest of 4 kids. He was the third, and he was very technical. So he would take apart trains and turn them into windmills with his erector set and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I mean, I always looked up to him. So I got into electronics, when I was young, and then I started wiring things and basically following in his footsteps. And so I think that kind of got me started in the, oh yeah, it's fun to mess around with technical things. I didn't ultimately end up going to school for that. I went to school for business, And so my career path has kind of taken an interesting trajectory, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. Research, 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 and read. And if you think that that you should zig when everybody else is zagging, then I think you should feel free to do that. Make sure that you.
And one thing that I want to encourage everyone to do is while you're learning, to share what you're learning with other people. That's one of the reasons why I'm so in love with social media, because it'll give you the chance to inspire someone. And a lot of the times you don't even know that people are watching you, but there are people that are watching you and like secretly hoping that what you're doing is a success or that it works out because they need to see someone do it.
So try to always stay exposed to all walks of life, so that when I'm talking to people who are very technical and who are hugging servers and routers and pulling fiber, that I can talk to them about ones and zeros and the technical aspect of the solution. But when I'm talking to the CEO, I can convince them without making their eyes gloss over with the technical details. And in both instances, I can communicate what I'm trying to get across to them and eventually get the sale. So adaptability has been key for me, and to continually stay on top of technology and always be in a position where I'm learning something has also been very important for me.
The biggest lesson I learned is that in fact, I mean, the Bible, there's a verse that says, don't despise the day of small beginnings. And I mean, I would have never imagined in a million years that I would be sitting here and have the position that I have, coming from the background that I did. No matter what you're doing or where you find yourself in life, you know, everything, at least in my experience, has lent itself to the next step of evolution to where and you don't know ultimately where you end up. But, you know, I've always, my parents had instilled in me to work hard, whatever I was doing. And from that, all of the experiences and exposures that you get ultimately color and flavor the person that you become, and professionally, you know, the doors that open up for you to end up wherever you ultimately want to be.